Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
In the cold North Atlantic, an all-hands-on-deck search and rescue operation looking for any signs of a small private submersible and the 5 people on board missing since Sunday after going to explore the Titanic wreckage.
It is a challenge to conduct a search in that remote area, but we are deploying all available assets.
It's a 21-foot submersible named Titan, made of titanium and carbon fiber, owned by OceanGate, a private company that charters tours costing as much as $250,000. Among the paying passengers, billionaire Hamish Harding, whose previous adventures included a submersible dive to the Mariana Trench and a space flight on Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. On Instagram Sunday, he signed his name on the logo as he announced he'd be diving to the Titanic. Also on board, Pakistani-British businessman Shahzada Dawood, along with his son Suleiman, according to his company. Overnight, OceanGate released a new statement. Our entire focus is on the well-being of the crew, and every step possible is being taken to bring the 5 crew members back safely. Last year, the company's founder and CEO discussed the ongoing fascination with the Titanic on Seattle's King 5 TV.
We have a number of people who come with us, sometimes referred to as Titaniacs, people who have just been consumed by the Titanic, and it was just great to take them down.
Among the search efforts, U.S. and Canadian C-130s conducting visual and radar aerial searches and dropping sonar buoys in the water listening for the sub.
When something happens on the high seas, it gets complicated quickly because of winds, oceans, drift, all that stuff.
Considered the world's most famous shipwreck, the Titanic rests at a treacherous depth of 2.5 miles. 1,500 people died when the ship sank in 1912. In recent years, other tourist submersibles have tried exploring the wreckage. Now search teams are in a race against the clock for this missing sub, oxygen potentially running low.
Who decided that there weren't enough deaths associated with the Titanic? Who made that call? Who decided that that was a good thing to spend your days doing, especially if you were like a billionaire? Who does this? Really? Who says, "Hey, I'm in. Come, here's my $250"? I don't. Oh well, I get it. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Yeah, once in a lifetime. The truer words have never been spoken. One time you get to do it. Once. It's like, holy crap. And we're all sitting here. Everybody's talking about this, okay? That's the only reason why, we're going to talk about it is because this is what everybody's talking about. Because the visual of how these people will die it's so claustrophobic, and it's so anxiety riddled, and it's so, I don't know, imaginable for everybody to think that, they could be in a capsule 2 miles below, the surface of the ocean, knowing that when they got on board that thing, that, listen, they signed, they signed like a waiver that you have to sign, evidently, for anybody who's ever done any adventures. I don't care if it's zip lining or it's, taking an Alaskan helicopter while it's pouring rain and the wind is whipping around. Yeah, we all do it. But we all know you sign a waiver, and this particular one mentioned death several times. Several times. This is not, the Apple user agreement. This is not that. This is not a T-Mobile contract. Everybody understand that? And yet they waived their right to live and got on board. And, it's interesting that, so when you want to see the interior of this, here's a report. This is a couple days ago, okay, but the report is still good. This is what the interior of this thing looked like, okay?
The Titan is the only 5-person sub in the world that can reach Titanic depths, 2.4 miles below the sea. It's also the only one with a toilet.
That's a toilet?
Sort of. And yet, I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised.
We can use these off-the-shelf components.
I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on! It seems like this submersible has some elements of MacGyver-y jerry-riggedness. I mean, you're putting construction pipes as ballast.
I don't know if I'd use that description of it, but there's certain things that you want to be buttoned down. So the pressure vessel is not MacGyver at all, because that's where we work with Boeing and NASA and the University of Washington. Everything else can fail. Your thrusters can go, your lights can go, you're still going to be safe.
He's on it. He's in that capsule. He's in there. He's in the submersible with 4 other people. He's in there. Shocking, isn't it? Isn't it amazing when you see like how it's actually, you know, just but you know, listen, I will tell you, I know the game controller was kind of like, what? I know it was one of those moments, but you have to understand that, you know, we use game controllers basically for firing drones. You know, our military uses game controllers to, you know, to launch Hellfire missiles that, you know, have tons and tons of gunpowder. I don't know how else to put it inside them, you know, to make bombs. And so anyway, but, you know, and everybody's sitting there going, well, the trip for this, the cost of this was like $250,000. I'm guessing they'll have to discount now going forward. But some of the reasons I've heard, and I don't know if you accept this or you don't, I'll just put it out there, that the reasons I heard about how it is that space travel, you know, like Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin, one of these guys was on Blue Origin, you know, the Bezos, you know, space capsule. Some of these people are addicted to adrenaline. They're adrenaline junkies. Some of them are just sci-fi, you know, and so, you know, they all have like an enormous amount of disposable cash. I mean, this one guy, Hamish Harding, he's a billionaire. The ones that I really feel sad for, the ones that I can't even imagine like what his wife is thinking, is the Pakistani billionaire and his son. They seem like the only people that aren't associated with Ocean Gate that are on board that particular submersible. But the British-born Pakistani businessman and his son, I think the businessman is like 48 years old. His son is 19. I just I feel terrorized for them, you know, because but anyway, it's $250,000. So I was wondering, you know, like, why is it so expensive? You know, what is the deal when you find out that they're controlling the whole thing with a game controller, and you find out that the toilet is really a plastic bottle? A plastic bottle. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then you find out that the way that they communicated outside of the capsule, outside of the submersible, was by text message. Now, I don't understand. Maybe somebody out there does, but I don't understand how that's okay. Any of it. I can understand the cost in this weird way. So I was listening to Richard Branson talk about why it costs so much to go into his space program. Why, you know, it costs so much for these adventures. And he was saying because right now, you know, the only people that can afford it are very, very, very wealthy people, but they do it that way so that they pay the big bucks, and the big bucks are then reinvested into the project in order to make it more accessible for less bucks going forward. I don't know. I mean, it sounds okay, because to me, I really think that the reason why they're doing that space program, I think the reason why they picked, I don't know, you know, like Star Trek dude. We were just talking about him.
Branson? Wait.
Star Trek. We were just talking about him. And he went up into space, right? And I think that was for PR more than anything else, right?
Bezos, Musk, or Branson?
No, Star Trek. Captain Kirk.
Oh, Shatner.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about...
We were just talking about him. Just like 5 seconds ago before the show started.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Overnight, word that a Canadian aircraft has detected underwater noises in the search for the Titan submersible, missing since Sunday on a dive to the wreckage of the Titanic. But despite the underwater noises, the Coast Guard says a search yielded no results. The Navy is now sending experts and equipment that can lift up to 60,000 pounds, designed for recovering large undersea objects in the event the sub is located. But if the crew is trapped on the ocean floor, they're facing extreme conditions.
12,500 feet below the surface is not a place that humans were ever meant to be. And everything conspires to kill you down there when you consider it the pressure.
The Coast Guard has released video from inside its operations center, also showing the search pattern. As of Tuesday night, crews had covered 7,600 square miles.
Oh my God.
There's still a chance the sub is able to float to the surface on its own, but the crew would still be trapped. ABC's Gio Benitez is in Nova Scotia monitoring the search.
The Titan is actually bolted shut from the outside, and that's part of the concern here.
Rescuers would have to first locate the vessel and physically remove the crew before oxygen runs out. The 5 on board only have about 1 day's worth of oxygen remaining. Robots are also being used.
These are unmanned underwater robots that could be sent to the bottom to investigate and try and locate the submersible.
I mean, every time I hear a detail about it, every time I see something more about it, and then when I don't know what it is about this, but when this morning they said, oh, and by the way, they've been bolted in from the outside. I don't know why that just, that sent like the most ooty-gots, gross, stomach flipping, stomach churning thing throughout my entire being. I was like, oh my God, that is it's like bolting yourself into your own coffin. Do you know what I mean?
I was just about to say it's like being buried alive.
Alive.
And you are completely at the mercy of the chance that another human being handles this for you, which is scary in and of itself.
Quentin Tarantino has to make a film about this.
Oh, well, in Kill Bill 2. In Kill Bill 2,
I know.
Oh, yeah.
The buried alive portion.
Yes. I thought you, okay, good.
Yes,
Excellent.
of course. You know, with the straight up.
Saying he needs to make a film about the submersible.
Yeah, he does. He needs to make
man.
a film about the submersible is what I was saying. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying.
I not only did I drop the ball on that, I dropped the ball on the Shatner thing, which I apologize. I was coming off the phone.
We were just talking about it.
Segment.
I mean, I'm old. I get to have brain farts. What's your dealio?
Look,
Huh?
Where do we start, Randy? Come on. But that is on me. William Shatner is who you were looking for.
Yes, but it can't be on you. You have to have my back. It just can't be on you. It just can't be.
Fail.
Well, it's on me. You know, I mean, it's just like. But anyway, so what I was trying to explain to you is there's these dueling theories about why it's $250,000 to go on these adventures, right? And like your initial reaction is, oh my God, this is the purview of the spoiled rotten, right? This is the purview of the board, the trust fund babies, the billionaires, the hedge fund managers, the behind every great fortune is a great crime guys. And then the other thought is, well, maybe it does take a lot of money in order to make privatization of space and sea affordable for the unwashed masses. Do you know, I mean, because this is Richard Branson's explanation for why it's so expensive. I was watching an interview with him because I'm like fascinated with this whole adventure thing, right? And how people are willing to, risk their lives, B, pay $250,000 for, to go down into a submersible that they know. Not only did they sign their a waiver saying death is possible, death is, likely, death is, but also they know some of the things we're just now finding out about the submersible, including that it's operated with a game controller, including that the toilet is going to be a plastic bottle that you might find, on any 4th of July, Juneteenth picnic table. And you're going to, this is why I guess only men can go, because how am I supposed to squat over the bottle? I mean, what kind of aim do I really need to have in order to be an adventure seeker? I don't even understand the prerequisite, right? Anyway, and then you find out that the way that they communicate with people outside of the submersible is by text message. Okay, so what I was trying to explain to you is that yesterday I couldn't find my phone, okay? And so I went on the cloud and I used the Find My Phone thing, and it told me, idiot, you left your phone at home. It's right by your computer in your home office. Okay, that's where your phone is, you moron, you. Brett has to have you back because you're going to have many brain farts going forward now. Something's wrong with you.
Between the two of us, we may have a functional brain.
Oh,
that can handle
that's frightening.
These details.
Oh, God. So anyway, and then the other reason why I can imagine that the privatization of space and the not why, but how the privatization of space and sea actually occur is that these guys like the Bezos and the Richard Bransons and the Elon Musks, oh God help us, who want to own these arenas in aviation, in space, in sea adventures, and 2.5 miles below surface of the sea. Some of it, I think, is that they need to be subsidized by places like, NASA. And so they're launching people in their vehicles. And then once something bad happens, like Elon Musk's last one exploded on the launch pad. Okay. I know this because when he launches, I go outside. We go outside because you can see it from my house. I feel like Sarah Palin. I can see Elon Musk's SpaceX from my house. I can see it. And we can. But that day I remember going outside and just standing there with Alan the dog and Howard and staring at the sky and staring at the sky and staring at the sky. And some of my neighbors came out and said, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? And I said, oh, there's supposed to be a space launch. Never saw anything. They stood there for a minute. Then they looked at me like, okay, she's back crap. There's something wrong with her. There always has been. She, sits in a room and talks to herself. And she has issues is what it is. And, we've always known that about her. Because there was no launch. Well, come to find out that the thing exploded on the launch pad and they declared victory. Do you remember that? Well, we expected it to explode on the launch pad. I mean, billions, if not multiple hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment just boom on the launch. Oh, yeah, that was the result we were looking for. Come on. That's like telling me, oh, I went into the submersible and the way that we communicate is by text message, but there's no GPS tracking on this freaking thing, so that now it's like finding the needle in the haystack. It's like we have to crisscross the North Atlantic. We have to go, off of Cape Cod. I mean, really, they found the Titanic, but they can't find them because why? Well, we haven't mastered tracking. Are you kidding? If you have a phone right now, I don't care what it is. You have a phone right now, somebody's tracking you. You understand that? Or you're agreeing to tell the cloud to find you. Or you're agreeing to tell, Verizon or your carrier to find you, to locate you. I don't understand it. But the idea of dying that way? Oh, God, I don't know why. And we were talking about, there's plenty of ways to die from Mother Nature. But this, oh, my God.
Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. Today is Wednesday. That means we only have today, Thursday, and Friday in order to meet the next challenge. And the next challenge for the Summer Free Speech TV Pledge Drive is thus. We need 1,000 donors, and it could be somebody that's already given. We went at the beginning. The challenge was to find 1,000 new donors. Well, this one applies to all donors, any donor at all. So over the next 2 days, we're going to try to unlock another $10,000 from a frontline funder. And any donor at all, a new donor, a monthly giver, a monthly one-time, a one-time yearly, somebody starting a new monthly, it doesn't matter. If we can get 1,000 people in the next 2 days to, make a donation, then the frontline funder the author of this challenge, will give us another 10 grand. So that's how we unlock the next $10,000. So please call us at 877-378-8669 and speak to some happy peppy person in Denver, Colorado, who will get paid. See, this is to make payroll for those people that work in Denver, Colorado. So you can call them and thank them for their hard work, 877-378-8669, and make that donation, or donate online, freespeech.org, or text 44321 and put in the letters FSTV, Free Speech TV, and we'll send you a secure link. And thank you very, very much. Looking for 1,000 donors today. Don't have to be new to this game. Anybody at all will do. All right, so while I was obsessing over the horrible, horrific death that is, I don't know. I mean, look, they're saying, oh, we hear noises and that maybe they're banging on the hull. Just every detail that I get on this story. And I'm not the only one. I thought maybe it was just me. Maybe it's me and I have claustrophobia, which I don't. Or maybe it's me and I'm just afraid of dying in that manner, which I'm not, because I will never, ever be in a submersible 2.5 miles under the surface of the ocean. I mean, it's not for me. My father was a certified diver. I've gone scuba diving, okay? Dives don't go much past 100 feet because of the pressure. You get the bends if you come up too fast. It's not fun, and it's not for me. It's not anything I'm interested in. However, just all these questions that are coming up. It's like honestly, what is this about? What is it about? And then we were talking about like all the other ways that you can die. I mean, there's a plethora of ways that you can die. And coming out of COVID, I think we're all real clear on how many natural ways there are that people can perish from this earth prematurely or, later in life. And so we were talking about, the earthquakes in Turkey, okay? And thousands, tens of thousands of people just perished. And I don't know why. It didn't play in people's imagination in that same twisted way. And yet the way that they would perish would be almost exactly the same. They would, they would suffocate under rubble. They would be crushed or claustrophobic or run out of oxygen or run out of water. And yet there's something about this one that has captured everyone's imagination. However, that said, they could turn out like, oh, I don't know. Remember the kids in the cave in Thailand? They got them. They found those boys. They rescued those boys. That was miraculous, wasn't it? We were good with that. That was a great story because it had a happy ending, and everybody wants a happy ending. Some people will actually pay extra for it. And then, you could have the, never finished sentence thing, like Malaysian Airlines 370. No, we never found that freaking plane. How do you lose a plane? See what I mean? So I don't know. But I can tell you this, there's joy today to be had if you look for it. So on several levels, there's much joy to go around, okay? So now that I've gotten the Udigots portion of my morning news imbibement, my morning news, I took it in. Nutrition, I don't know. I can now tell you where the good news is. So the good news is on several fronts. So first you have the crushing of the Hunter Biden is a bribe-taking frontman for the dirty president, Joe Biden. That entire narrative has been crushed. It has been obliterated by Donald Trump and Bill Barr, who saw fit back in Trump's day. He went to Bill Barr, Trump did, and said to Bill Barr, I want a special. They had a special prosecutor. I want one too. What's so special about them that they get a special? They had Mueller. How come they get one and I don't? I want a special. I want a special. Hire me a special. So Bill Barr goes out and he hires, Durham. Okay. So Durham wrote his report. It landed with a thud. There was no there. He went looking for, some untoward thing that Hillary Clinton did with cooperation from dirty FBI agents in order to open her Crossfire Hurricane. And none of that happened. He couldn't find any untoward activity. He couldn't find any bad behavior on the part of Hillary Clinton. He couldn't find any bad behavior on the part of the FBI. He found one guy who applied for the fourth extension on a FISA warrant that he wasn't even responsible for initiating, okay, on Carter Page. The fourth extension on a FISA warrant, and he left out a detail or something like this, and so that's what he found for all his millions and 4 years of investigation. That's what we ended up with. Durham tried to prosecute 2 other people. They were both acquitted by juries. There was no there, a lawyer and some other guy. And that was it. That's all we got for a month. And then today they said, well, the Republicans are like breathless. What do you mean? What do you mean Hillary didn't do? What do you mean? What do you mean that there was no? You mean you can't prove that Hunter Biden took bribes, and you can't prove that Joe Biden is dirty, and you can't prove that Crossfire Hurricane was part of a plot and a scheme and a plan? No, we have absolutely no information that would lead us to any of these conclusions about any of your insane topics of inquiry. None of them are true. And we have farmed these cases out, and they have been active for years now. Hunter Biden's case was sent to a U.S. attorney in Pittsburgh. The U.S. attorney in Pittsburgh couldn't find anything. Instead of closing the case, he sent it to back to Bill Barr. Bill Barr sent it to a U.S. attorney in Delaware. Here, Delaware, you look at Hunter Biden. You look at it. That's where the laptop will go look. And they couldn't find anything except that for 2 weeks, oh my God, for 2 weeks, Hunter Biden was the owner of a gun, and he shouldn't have been an owner of a gun because he was a drug addict. Now, if we actually, like I said yesterday, prosecuted every drug addict who has a gun in this country, the addict in possession statute, it actually has a name. So it is on the books. It is a law, okay? The addict in possession statute. If we prosecuted that, I think we could get rid of our gun problem. I really do. I'm pretty sure we could get rid of our white supremacy problem. White supremacists who own guns. There seems to be a little bit of a meth epidemic, a little bit of a crystal, epidemic in the white supremacist community, if I could speak to you that way. But they couldn't find anything. And Durham was then called today to testify about Russia and Russian interference and how it didn't exist. Whoops.
It's the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, so this was Durham today, testifying in front of the House Judiciary Committee about whether or not his investigation into Russian interference produced any Russian interference at all.
Although our work exposed deep concerns concerning facts about the conduct of these investigations, our report should not be read to suggest in any way that Russian election interference was not a significant threat. It was.
Oh.
Nor should it be read to suggest that the investigative authorities at issue no longer serve important law enforcement and national security interests. They do. Rather, responsibility for the failures and transgressions that occurred here rests with the people who committed them or allowed them to occur. Again, to my mind, the issues raised in the report deserve close attention from the American people and their elected representatives here in Washington.
Oops. Whoops. Oh, no. Why did they call him to testify? Why didn't they just let his report, land with a thud last month? Why did they have to have this hearing? Can you see, the Republicans' faces in this particular hearing? They are stunned and shocked and just peeved to the max that Durham just testified that after 4 long years and no convictions of anybody that did anything illegal, untoward, or wrong enough to warrant any, firings or any fraud or any filings or any court cases or any jury verdicts, which is completely counter to what Mueller did. Mueller got convictions for Roger Stone, got convictions for Steve Bannon, 13 troll farm operators in Russia, on and on and on it goes. There were 24 separate cases, right? And he was able to, get these people to be brought in guilt to the point where Donald Trump had to pardon his peeps, in order for them to move freely about this country. And here is Durham, after all this time and all this money and all this effort, saying, oh, please don't read my report to say that there was no Russian interference in the 2016 election, because there was. Yeah, we know there was, because we understand what Mueller's report produced, and we understand what your report failed to produce. I mean, they got one One guilty plea to the lawyer who left out a detail on the fourth renewal, not a new ask, not a new request for a new warrant on a new person. No, the fourth renewal on Carter Page's FISA warrant at the FISA court. A mistake was made, and so he found one lawyer that made that mistake, and this guy pled guilty. Mueller, on the other hand, got 24 criminal cases, 6 Trump associates, 6 of them, and that was in a 1-year-long probe. I mean, honestly, it is so bogus, and they, by them I mean the Republicans, are hunting Democrats. They're the ones who are weaponizing the United States government, everything from the House of Representatives to the Judiciary Committee. Yesterday was the Intelligence Committee, all the way up through, Bill Barr, the DOJ, all the way through to the presidency. I mean, everything is a weapon now. Donald Trump can steal national secrets and, they'll still defend him. They still will remain silent. They will still excuse anything he does, any risk that he, makes us accept without needing to accept this risk. Any dodge, any lie, anything that he does or says that puts us in harm's way, they don't care. They don't care. The government, as far as they see it, is a weapon to be used against Democrats, who don't break the law, so that they can create this environment where you suspect, or you can allege, or you can assume, or you can infer, or you can, confer guilt, whatever, on somebody without any facts, without any evidence. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. So that was kind of interesting today, how this testimony of Durham's just went completely south. Yesterday, we found out that Hunter Biden, there's nothing. He's not, accused of, bribing anybody. He's not accused of doing anything illegal. He's two misdemeanor tax charges, which no one ever goes to jail for. Plus, here's a little detail: Hunter Biden paid those taxes. He didn't pay them on time. Okay, that's it. That's what they got. All these years later, they got that. He paid $1.2 million in taxes in those 2 years that were, suspected, and he didn't pay them on time. So that's his big crime. And for 2 weeks, he had a gun that he shouldn't have had. And like I said, I can't even imagine that Republicans think there's any gun crime that is a crime. Anything you could do with a gun, without a gun. I mean, not having a gun for them is a crime. Gun-free zones, that's criminal, right? Not having a gun is a crime. So when Hunter Biden anyway, his girlfriend found out that he had this gun. She threw it away. He didn't use the gun in the commission of a felony. He didn't use the gun at all. She totally threw the gun away. Anyway, he's going to go to a diversion program to make amends, which is good because he's a drug addict and you need to make amends when you're a drug addict. So, okay. But there's no bribery. There's nothing there. And now this with Durham, nothing there. There's nothing there. Crossfire Hurricane was a legitimate exercise. Russia was not a hoax. They actually interfered in our election. Mueller did a year-long probe into these allegations and found that not only did Donald Trump welcome the Russian interference, but said, Russia, if you're listening, I mean, do we all forget all of this? I mean, I get that, you forget a little detail. You can forget William Shatner's name, but you can't forget that Mueller produced 24 criminal cases and 6 Trump associates were found to be part of a conspiracy to interfere in our elections by knowing that the Russians hacked into the DNC and then delivering the documents to WikiLeaks and then coordinating their release from WikiLeaks depending on whether or not Trump needed a bump in the polls. There were hundreds of contacts between Donald Trump's campaign and Russian officials during the 26 campaign. Russian operatives had been directed to help Donald Trump win the presidency by hacking into the DNC and leaking these emails with coordination from Roger Stone and others on the Trump campaign. You can't, I mean, and that Donald Trump not only embraced it, but he welcomed it. He welcomed it. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find the 30,000 and refused to discourage them from interfering in our elections, okay? And then Bill Barr comes along and he goes, I think spying did occur.
I think spying did occur.
Yeah, well, it didn't. And Durham found it didn't. There was no spying. But Bill Barr and all these Republicans that are sitting there now going, well, this is Biden's DOJ. Biden has nothing to do. DOJ is separate. The president doesn't tell DOJ who to investigate unless the president is Donald Trump, which was bizarro world to think that we had a president who could make investigations into innocent people occur at the highest levels of the federal government, which he did. And Bill Barr was willing to do it. He was willing to go out there and go, I think spying did occur. And then flew to Italy to sit there with Durham and coordinate the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, and a special counsel coordinating in Italy a probe that DOJ is supposed to be separate from. That's why it's called special counsel. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, and then we had the IG's investigation. Remember, Michael Horowitz actually looked in to whether or not, everything was above board in Crossfire Hurricane. And he found there was no political bias at all in the FBI. There was nothing. There was no there. This was bogus. And Bill Barr still went ahead and appointed Durham, probably because Donald Trump was an incessant, bitch about it and, was making him do it. So he said, all right, fine, I'll hire somebody. I'll put somebody in the special counsel. But, I mean, nothing came from it. That's the thing. So Biden, the Hunter Biden thing is done, and there's no there. The Durham thing is done, and there's no there, right? The other beauty in the news today, the other really good news is it looks like Trump's support is kind of tanking after the indictment. Now, I would like to see additional polls. I would like more polling, please, because I'm a girl. I would like more polling in order to make this as a definitive statement that Donald Trump's support seems to be cracking or fading or tanking or receding. But it's just like there's a poll that shows that he has, since the indictment, lost about 6% of approval from the sickest of the sycophants. And then the other good news, looks like we caught ourselves another Supreme Court justice. Yep, that would make 3.
Clear. Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Let's talk about that new polling, which shows Donald Trump is losing some support among Republican primary voters. In the latest CNN survey, 47% of registered Republican and Republican-leaning independents say Trump is their choice to lead the 2024 ticket. That is down 6% from a poll taken last month, but still 21 points higher than Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is in second place. Former Vice President Mike Pence and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley round out the top 4, with no other candidate polling above 5%. The poll also shows Trump's favorability rating has fallen 10 points among Republicans since last month, from 77% to 67%. Additionally, 27% now say they have an unfavorable view of the former president, compared to 18% in May. Among all Americans, 59% say Trump should end his 2024 campaign now that he has been federally charged. That number is much higher at 85% among non-Republican voters. And finally, 55% of Americans say the former president broke the law with his mishandling of classified documents, while another 30% say his actions were unethical but not illegal. And I want to know who those people are, because Trump himself says he broke the law. Like, he's saying it with his words, and they still can't get there, which is hard to understand.
He still can't get there. He sits there and admits it over and over and over again on the TV right there in your living room. But you want to see who those 30% are? I'll show you who those 30% are. Here's a little snippet of a Iowa focus group, okay? Watch this.
So let's say Trump is found guilty of these charges. He goes through the courts and they find him guilty. Raise your hand if it makes you support him more.
Oh, my God.
Raise your hand if it makes you support him less.
It's the Branch Davidians, everybody.
God help us.
I want a criminal as the president of the United States. I do. I like a criminal. A criminal is what I'm looking for. What? Hunter Biden had a gun for 2 weeks that he shouldn't have had. Lock him up. Okay? Hillary Clinton's in the clear. Lock her up anyway. I don't care. Give me a criminal president. Give me that. And give me a criminal Supreme Court. See, that... you want to know who those 30% are, Mika? That's who the 30% is, okay? Just to answer the question. Yes, but the numbers for Trump are really going down, down, down. So did you see that 59% number? That's Republicans. 59% of Republicans.
Oh, Randy, that is the payoff, right? Him in handcuffs, him going to jail. That would be nice. These numbers, this is the payoff right here.
No. It's just a start.
Yeah, that trend.
But
that
59% of the GOP, this is what I'm telling you. I keep trying to explain that in this country, about 30% of Americans identify as, because their brain, tells them what to identify as. Just remember that next time you're trashing children, that your brain is telling you what you identify as. Okay, that said, so 30% of Americans still identify as being Republican. Of those, 30% still support him. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It is a tiny little sliver. The problem we have is that those are primary voters. That is the problem. The problem is the more they believe in the cult, the more they hate this country, the more they feel like they're being replaced or whatever, bullcrap is being peddled to them by right-wing, info whores or whatever they call themselves, right? The more they want to support him. Okay? But that is a tiny, tiny little sliver of us, is what I'm trying to say. Now, they will show up and they will vote for him in the primary. And they are going to decide who the Republican nominee is. Meaning, we understand that Joe Biden is likely to be the Democratic nominee because Joe Biden is the current president of the United States and a Democrat. Also because he's been extraordinarily effective. He's been amazeballs. He inherited a gigunda mess. You don't see people bitching about the border now. Border, ever since we left Title 42, Trump's plan, and moved back to Title 8, our plan, you see people coming in legally or trying to claim asylum legally with their papers in their hands online trying to get in here. Okay. With Donald Trump, it was like, massive chaos, because in chaos, he could make himself a hero. He could sell you anything when you felt things were chaotic, and he did. So he still thrives on chaos. He still needs chaos. I'm done with the chaos. I can't handle any more chaos than COVID and the border and the security and not being able to, gas prices going through the sky. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible. Those 2 years were horrible. Horrible. And the whole time, and still to this day, you have people that are out there telling us COVID was a hoax. It didn't really happen. We didn't need a vaccine. We didn't. I swear to God, I don't know what has happened to Americans' ability to think their way out of paper bags, but a lot of Americans have lost their ability to think their way out of paper bags. I honestly am encouraged, though, when I see 59% of the GOP are saying he really needs to drop out. He really does. So that was the good news today. The other wonderful thing, besides for Hunter Biden not being a devious, mass criminal, not being, a mastermind of bribery schemes, which, obviously, Jared Kushner walked away with $2 billion from the Saudis, who then swooped in and bought the PGA. And now they're under investigation, too, for violating antitrust, laws that we have in this country, because no one can believe that the PGA, professional golf, is going to be run by Saudi Arabia in an effort to deflect you from the fact that they are human rights abusers. Ask anybody in Yemen or a woman who, would like to, drive away. So the amount of mess that was left to Biden to clean up and the effortless, quiet leadership that is Joe Biden is pretty astonishing. It's pretty amazing. They threatened to blow up our economy just recently. I mean, literally just sit there and explode it with dynamite, not let us pay our bills, right? They were going to default the United States of America. That Republican Party was in service to an ideology that says government needs to go. Government holds lawbreakers accountable, and we can't have that because we intend to break the law 8 ways to Sunday. We want to be able to control the Department of Justice so that they can then become the secret police. They can then prosecute our political enemies, weaponize the government. I mean, where do you think that expression came from, that they called their committee, which has failed miserably, to expose any sort of weaponization of the government against Republicans, and has just backfired and showed us that the Republicans weaponize the government against ordinary Americans over and over and over again. So now we're looking at the Supreme Court and we find Clarence Thomas is unethical and he takes big money and he allows his mom's house to get purchased by, Harlan Crow and big money, and he does their bidding, and they will ignore precedent and they will overturn rights that we have taken for granted for the last 50 years because that's what the money wants. Then we found out that John Roberts' wife was literally, screening lawyers for white shoe law firms who would bring cases in front of the Supreme Court and telling the law firms which guys would do well in front of her husband, which guys would do well in front of Clarence, which guys to hire, and taking commission for turning on these law firms to these guys who would be acceptable to her husband in court at the Supreme Court. And now today we find out that Justice Alito was taking money from a giant billionaire hedge fund manager who had 10 cases in front of him. 10.
Clear. 4.
I watched it on TV.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito is facing scrutiny over a new report claiming he accepted a lavish vacation from a conservative billionaire with frequent business before the court. It's a story written up by ProPublica, and it comes as some are calling for reform to the high court's ethics. Scott McFarland is at the Supreme Court for us this morning with more. Scott, good morning.
Tony, good morning. Tuesday's report claims Justice Alito took a luxury fishing trip with Republican mega donor Paul Singer, but didn't recuse himself years later when cases connected to Singer's business came here before the high court. Even before the reporting was published, Alito was mounting a response.
Oh, my God.
The report says Justice Samuel Alito did not report gifts on annual financial disclosure forms, including a private flight to Alaska and other amenities provided by billionaire hedge fund manager Paul Singer during a fishing trip in 2008. The report details that in July of that year, they stayed at the King Salmon Lodge and were served multi-course meals of Alaskan king crab legs or Kobe filet. They also enjoyed wine that cost $1,000 a bottle. According to ProPublica, Singer's Manhattan-based hedge fund was involved in at least 10 cases brought before the Supreme Court, many of them high-stakes business cases. Those cases were heard after that fishing trip in 2008, with one decision in 2014 when the High Court voted 7-1 in Singer's favor.
I mean, honestly, everybody, the Supreme Court has been captured by money, just the way the House of Representatives has been captured by gerrymandered maps and money. And the Senate is captured by money. The presidency, what does it take, like $1 billion to run for president now? And everybody just thinks it's fine. That's the way it is. Listen, I got news for you. The beauty of catching the third guy, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We won't get fooled again. Wasn't that the brilliance of W? Didn't he say that? So, I mean, the idea that we have three Supreme Court justices who are ethically challenged by facts, the facts of their lives, the facts of their wives, the facts of their mothers, the facts of their mothers' homes, the facts of billionaires, and the facts of, taking trips, luxury trips, and having the awesome audacity to look us in the eye and say, it's just hospitality. It's just hospitality. Drinking $1,000 bottles of wine, eating Alaskan king. And here's the creepy part about the Alito story. Alito responded to the ProPublica story before the ProPublica story was even published. Why? Alito decided to call up his buddies who run the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, a Rupert Murdoch-owned paper, where the editorial page, as you know, I've said the Wall Street Journal is a good paper. It is. It's a very good paper. It does extraordinary work on the news side, and I've always said to you just stay away from their editorial page, because news and opinion are two different things. And the people who work to gather the news for the Wall Street Journal and the people who write the editorials for the Wall Street Journal are not the same people. So Alito needed an outlet because ProPublica called him for comment on the story they were about to publish about him and his corrupt ethics. And he wouldn't comment to ProPublica. Instead, he called his friends at the Wall Street Journal editorial page and said, I need to respond to something that's about to be published, and I've written a response to a story that isn't even out yet, and I need it to appear in the Wall Street Journal. And oh, by the way, don't put this behind the Wall Street Journal paywall, which is the awesome, border fence between the haves and the have-nots who get to read and don't read the Wall Street Journal, right? I mean, who does that? The Supreme Court justice took issue with the questions that ProPublica was raising with an investigative journalism piece about his behavior with regard to Paul Singer, who is a billionaire who has a hedge fund, okay? Now, here's the other part of my reaction to this story. First of all, who calls their friends at the Wall Street Journal editorial page and says, I need to put an editorial, I need to respond to a piece that isn't even published yet, that three investigative journalists are doing on my bad behavior and my lack of ethics with regard to taking money from a guy who has 10 cases in front of me. But the other reaction from me was, who in the world gets away with running a hedge fund that needs to be litigated to the Supreme Court 10 different times? Like, how is that possible? How is that a thing that you are running a hedge fund and there's 10 business disputes in less than 10 years that end up in front of the United States Supreme Court? Like, what is going on there? Okay? I have no idea, except to say maybe Paul Singer likes it to go all the way to the Supreme Court because he's got friends there who can make laws for billionaires across this nation. I don't know. But I'll tell you who does know. My husband in heaven, Sheldon Whitehouse. People always wonder, why do I have a Sheldon Whitehouse in my collection? I mean, they can understand a Kamala. She's the vice president of the United States. They can understand a Joe Biden. He's the president of the United States. They understand a Ruth Bader Ginsburg, okay? She is the author of my freedom, okay, and of our children's freedom, our daughter's freedom, the ability to work and make a living or not, or do whatever we want with our lives, okay? So everybody understands why she's there, right? Everybody, I think, understands why this is Zelensky. People don't, they ask me all the time, like, who is this? Well, it's not even in the shot anymore. That's so interesting. My bobbleheads. They're not even in the shot.
Well, that one comes in on the wide shot.
Oh, that's
we
not
just
good.
got so much going on
Oh,
that
see,
shot.
well, this guy here is Zelensky. Anyway, and then this one here is me, and this is Howard, and this was a present, from Howard for, I think it was Valentine's Day. It was just such a nice thing to do because I love bobbleheads. And then everybody goes, like, why do you have a Sheldon? Because he is the person who is actually going to straighten out the corrupt Supreme Court. I don't even know how we call them justices anymore. How do you call him Justice Alito or Justice Thomas? They have absolutely no relationship to justice. You want to know why there's 2 and 3 and 5 tiers of justice in this country? Look no further than Clarence and Sam and John and Amy and Kavanaugh. Okay? I mean, listen, they're all ethically challenged. They all had no problems lying during their confirmation hearings about Roe v. Wade being precedent on precedent after Casey and blah, blah, blah. And then going in there and undoing 50 years of precedents. They had absolutely no problem doing it. That was ethically and legally actionable. That they committed perjury in plain sight. We all know it, right? But now we're finding out that it's even worse, that they've been taking money from hedge funds who have made it to the Supreme Court 10 different times for business disputes. What? Yes. 10 different times involving business disputes. That's in the Washington Post today. That's why he was there. And they're listening to their friends' cases. So Sheldon, why do I have Sheldon? Sheldon has an ethics bill. And we were wondering if it would ever see the light of day. And now we know the answer.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. The spring. I keep wanting to say spring. It's like so freaking hot out. It's summer. It's definitely summer. It's summer everywhere. It's like 225 degrees in Texas. I mean, it's like, I think your mic's on. But it's the summer free speech TV pledge drive-in. So what the challenge is now is we have to find 1,000 donors, and you don't have to be new. So the first challenge was to find new donors. Now any donor will do. You could be somebody who starts a 1 year, starts a monthly, gives a one time, has given before, wants to give, never did give. What doesn't matter. 1,000 donations in the next 2 days will unlock $10,000 additional dollars from our frontline funders. So thank you very much for contributing anything that you feel you can do today at 877-378-8669 or freespeech.org or text FSTV to 44321. 44321. Put in the letters FSTV and we'll send you a secure link. You could do a one-time, you could do a recurring. If you do a recurring, then you say, I don't know, why am I doing recurring? I can't do recurring. I thought I could do recurring, but now I can't recur. Just say stop, and it will stop. That's how easy it all is. So thank you very, very much for your support. Independent media is viewer-supported. It takes no corporate dollars at all, and it takes no political dollars. So it's up to us to keep this thing going. Christine in Arizona.
Oh, hi, Randy.
Hey.
How exciting to talk to you, dear. Hey, I'll make this quick, dear. I was just going to ask anybody, does it upset them when they go to the airport and you got to go through all this, take your shoes off, get the basket, do this, do that. Meanwhile, the Saudis, I just can't help thinking about that at the airport when I'm done doing all this stuff, and now they're golfing in America, and I don't know. Sometimes I just want to snap at the airport. Like, that's all, honey. I don't know people.
Well,
people think about.
Well, people actually don't think about Saudi when they think about 9/11. Isn't that pathetic? And just so. illustrative of what our issues are as a nation? No, they don't. They really don't. They don't realize that 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabians, and that the Saudis had fundraisers after 9/11, and women were taking off their wedding rings, like the Civil War, plantation stuff, right? Where they, they give to the Confederacy to be. I mean, that's what was going on in Saudi Arabia after 9/11, right? And then, and then we went to war with the wrong country, two wrong countries, and yes, we had a shoe bomber on an airplane, okay, and that's why you have to take your shoes off. But people don't connect those things; they just don't.
I mean, I just guess it'd be so infuriated when we just sit there and have to go through all this, and I just want to snap at there, but of course I won't. But anyway, I just wanted to pass that on. I just hope that if people think about that, like here we are golfing with these creeps and what they've done.
Oh, it's not golfing with them. And, sports, we play sports with lots of countries that, are human rights abusers. I mean, of course the Chinese put 10-year-olds into sports, and say they're 15, they cheat. But, the idea that the Saudis are purchasing one of the all-time great American pastimes, golfing.
That was my point.
And that, who does that benefit? So who owns golf courses that didn't have PGA tours that would book their golf courses? I mean, that must be a very large number of people that own golf courses, right? It's got to be a huge amount of people that own Doral and own Bedminster and own golf courses in Scotland and own golf courses, in far-flung. So who benefits by selling PGA to the Saudi? I mean,
Trump is always just going to be this thorn in our side. I'm not going to try to let it, but you know what I mean? He's just going to be this ongoing nightmare for America. I don't know.
Well, look, the idea that people are starting to reject him is a good thing. It's a little bit of progress in our country. I mean, I guess if we ask the question this way, if we said the past president of the United States has been indicted in New York State for 34 business fraud counts. He's facing 37 counts in another case, where he's just been indicted, and he's likely to face indictment in Georgia for trying to overthrow the results of a free and fair election by extorting and threatening people in Georgia that were Republican people, right? Is that what you'd like for the next president? Is that what you thought it would be? I think if you start asking people that way, is that the best that you can do? And not even the best that you can do. Is that what you thought you wanted? Somebody who is likely to die in prison, or somebody that is going to have to be under house arrest, or somebody who literally trades the national security secrets of the United States of America for his own, I don't care if it's just his own bragging rights, or if it was for his own psychology to be the biggest, baddest boy in the room, or if it was a way to bully the United States, or if it was a get out of jail free card, meaning if anything ever happened to him in the way of facing prison time, he would then say, I have, incredible national secrets that can really hurt the United States, and I will publish them or release them or give them to the enemies of the United States if I'm ever facing jail. I don't know what his reason is, but did you ever think that's what you wanted in a president? I bet if we started asking it that way, the answer would be, no, not really. I didn't, I thought I wanted somebody who, was going to drain the swamp. I thought I wanted somebody who would, point to an Alito, point to a Roberts, point to a Clarence Thomas and say, they are ethically challenged people. We need to introduce legislation in order to impose ethical standards upon them because they will not do it for themselves. Now, you see, that's why I have a Sheldon. I have a Sheldon because he said very plainly to the United States Supreme Court justices, and saying that they have any relationship to justice at this point is laughable, okay? They are all purchased, okay? The idea that the Federalist Society, Leonard Leo, who, by the way, was on this fishing trip, isn't that mysteriously crazy? Isn't that coincidental, everybody? That Leonard Leo was on this fishing trip with Alito where they drank $1,000 bottles of wine with a man named Paul Singer, who is a hedge fund manager who has had 10 business disputes go all the way to the Supreme Court so that the Supreme Court could adjudicate that. It's just such a small world that Leonard Leo would be there at that particular fishing trip. You know, it's just wow. Well, not only does Sheldon Whitehouse know that the court's been captured by money, dark money, and Leonard Leo's Federalist Society and the Donors Trust money and all the other big billionaire interests, but he gave them a chance. He said, why don't you just come up with ethics rules for yourself?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The trust in the Supreme Court is at an all-time polling low. Is there a way to restore that trust? Is just getting the Supreme Court to agree on a certain set of public ethics standards and then abide by them enough here?
Yeah, there are three things that can be done here, and all could actually work together. One, Chief Justice Roberts could take this seriously and
do you think he's
put
not?
together a proper ethics. No, he's not at all. Or if he's taking it seriously, it hasn't turned into any action yet. He hasn't operationalized taking it seriously. Second, you've got the Judicial Conference, which is the administrative body that runs the court, made up of mostly other federal judges. Only the Chief Justice sits on it and chairs it. And these other judges are quite fed up with the court's behavior, and they're in a position to upgrade the ethics and the accountability of the court. And finally, we in Congress have bills, and Chairman Durbin announced a hearing on my bill for after the 4th of July recess.
Yay! All right. So, you know, Sheldon Whitehouse has made it his business. He is a senator from Rhode Island, for those of you who are not familiar. And Sheldon Whitehouse, during the confirmation hearings of not just Brett Kavanaugh, but the confirmation hearings where he was hipping to what was going on with regard to Gorsuch and especially Amy Coney Barrett, where he didn't even bother asking her any questions because he knew she was lying under oath, willfully lying under oath about, precedent and, Roe v. Wade and, it can't be disturbed. And maybe it can, but I don't know, And so he decided to confront her with the money portion of the undoing of the Supreme Court, the dark money. And he actually wrote books, lots of them, and they're called The Scheme, okay? About the dark money scheme to capture the Supreme Court, and laid it out. And when Amy Coney Barrett was at her confirmation hearing, and he understood that every eye was going to be watching that confirmation hearing of hers, especially because it was only, 8 days before an election, and they said that they couldn't, nominate Merrick Garland because it was 11 months before an election, and that was too close to an election. It's like this argument they're having now where 17 months ahead of an election. It's too soon to put Donald Trump on trial. 17 months. I mean, listen, the time warp, the time-space continuum is warped in their head. I don't know. However, Sheldon Whitehouse has been on the forefront of trying to get the Supreme Court to fix itself and has asked them to fix itself. He's asked John Roberts, the Chief Justice, to come up with an ethics package to make disclosure laws for the court. Do it yourself. Nobody needs to intervene in your business if you do your business in a transparent, open manner. Because the approval rating of the court is through the freaking floor. Nobody trusts the Supreme Court because of the kinds of decisions that it's been making, where it's literally ignoring precedent on precedent, things that we have taken for granted our entire adult lives or even longer, like the Voting Rights Act. Okay. And they have gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And now they're sitting there telling us about an independent legislature theory that might mean we don't even get to vote. The state legislatures choose the manner in which the electors are selected for a presidential election, or the money and all kinds of stories coming out about Clarence Thomas' mom's house is owned by a billionaire who has business in front of the court. Really? Alito is drinking $1,000 bottles of wine with a hedge fund billionaire and saying, I don't know him that well. That's what he put in the Wall Street Journal op-ed. And he's literally right. This is what elitists do, right? I guess this is what spoiled, rotten brats do in response to, being exposed as being ethically challenged human beings. Of course, everybody knows you go to the Wall Street Journal and you say, stop the presses. I need to respond to an article that hasn't been published yet, but it's going to be. And it's going to actually find out that I've been taking trips, just like Clarence. I've been taking, expensive vacays. One of the things he took from this guy, he took a seat on a private jet, a flight to Alaska. It would have been $100,000, that seat on the private jet. And he said, well, I hardly know him. So acquaintances are giving you $100,000 gifts? In what world does that happen? Has that ever happened to you? It's never happened to me. No acquaintance of mine ever said, here's $100,000. Never. And I asked for money. I just don't, I don't know what's wrong with people that they just can't smarten up and say, that's wrong. That on every level, that's wrong. That he was taking $100,000 private jet trip on this guy's watch and that he had 10 cases in front of him. And now he has the nerve to write an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal in response to an article that's about to be published because he wants to get ahead of the bad news that he's also on the take. I mean, honestly, and I hardly knew him. He just gave me $100,000 because he thinks I'm pretty. What is that? Who does that? Elitists do that. Swampy people do that. People who aren't on the up and up do that. People who don't shake your hand and look you in the eye do that. So now, Sheldon Whitehouse, after he said to the Chief Justice Roberts, hey, listen, you got a problem. Nobody has any trust in the judicial branch, and it's essential because we're a nation of laws, okay? It's essential. We don't need people to have faith in their church. We don't have to, do anything to make people, go to church or say that their church is the right church or they feel comfortable that their church isn't on the take or their church isn't. We don't need that because we're not a nation of, scripture. We're a nation of laws. And so the Supreme Court matters, and trust in it is essential. Okay? And you need to come up with an ethics package and stick to it and tell the American people that you understand that they suspect that something isn't on the up and up in that court and you're going to make it right. But Robert's wife made $10 million off of him being a Supreme Court justice, right? She became a headhunter for law firms, identifying people who would do well arguing in front of her husband. Clarence Thomas obviously was on the take. I mean, and Leonard Leo is like at every one of these occasions. Always Leonard Leo, always him. But they hardly know each other. They're just giving large gifts to people they hardly even know. And they don't expect anything in return, these businessmen, these transactional dudes. No, I'm telling you right now, behind every great fortune, there is a great crime. And the great crime right now is easily, I won't say solved, but addressed in a meaningful manner by having the Supreme Court sign on to an ethics package, an ethics law that makes it a penalty. It makes it a crime, okay, to take money from people who have business in front of the court. And you have to disclose every single year where any money that came into your household, any money that came into your bank account, any money that came into anything to do with you, where it came from. And so now, Congress is going on break for the July 4th thing. And when they come back, finally, the Senate, Dick Durbin, who's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, has agreed to introduce Sheldon Whitehouse's ethics package because after he's asked the Supreme Court to police themselves, do it yourselves, you're grown-ups, for God's sake. You are arbiters of what is and what isn't constitutional. Surely you know that what you're doing taints everything. All your work and all your opinions are going to be devalued. So why don't you do something to straighten that out? And they wouldn't. They just wouldn't agree to it. So now we're going to have to introduce a piece of legislation. Now, there's going to be some talk, I'm sure, among some scholars from the, Judicial Watch and the Federalist Society and Donors Trust and all these lunatic, fringy people that like the way things are, that like being able to grease the Supreme Court justices with money in order to get favorable results. They're going to say, it's a separation of powers thing. Why? Congress doesn't have any say over the judicial branch. Congress is the legislative branch. How do they get? Just know this. The Supreme Court is created by an act of Congress, number one. Number two, Congress decides how many Supreme Court justices there are. And they could change that, number two. And number three, they actually get to say what the ethics rules are because Congress makes the rules for the Supremes. Now, we tried to treat them as adults. Sheldon tried to treat them as adults. I tried to treat them as an adult. Everybody tried to treat them as adults. Police yourselves. Do the right thing when no one's looking. I don't know what happened to morals in this country, honestly. I don't know what happened to ethics and morals and doing the right thing when no one's looking. But it's gone, and now it has to be legislated.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Spoiler alert.
This morning, an ROV, or remote operated vehicle, from the vessel Horizon Arctic discovered the tail cone of the Titan submersible approximately 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic on the seafloor. The ROV subsequently found additional debris. In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber.
Aye.
Upon this determination, we immediately notified the families. On behalf of the United States Coast Guard and the entire Unified Command, I offer my deepest condolences to the families.
So we now have a conclusion to the series. The binge watching has come to an end with this vessel that they named Titan that was going to see the Titanic. I mean, what are we going to have a spacecraft that we name Challenge after the Challenger? I don't think so. So, just an unfortunate name, an unfortunate ending, just an unfortunate, situation all the ways around. So it's over. The thing is ended. And I in the homework today, if you go to randyrhodes.com or visit us on Substack at randyrhodes.substack.com, either way, the homework is there and it's free. And there's an article in there that I tagged. I think I tagged it the best article I read about the submersible, and it was written by a guy who was a diver for many, many years and had a real close brush with death as a scuba diver, as a deep diver, and wrote about it and said something that really resonated with why I think we were all captured by this, because if you think about it, there was just a massive freaking shipwreck. I don't know how many people actually know about this, which is exactly illustrative of what I'm telling you. So there was this massive shipwreck in the Mediterranean. It was a bunch of, migrants that were trying to get the hell out of Libya. I swear to God, it's been Libya since Back to the Future. You know that, right? 88 miles per hour. You know, what was happening in the Twin Pines shopping center? Okay, Doc was being hunted by the Libyans. By the freaking Libyans. That's how old this Libyans.
Well, he's got to pay for his uranium. He didn't pay. They wanted their money. I don't blame the Libyans in that case.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You're a Muammar Gaddafi-loving, psycho. There's something wrong with you.
You buy uranium, you pay for your uranium. We know that.
You buy, you pay.
That's right. This is America.
Anyway, so these migrants, this is a very sad story, though. These migrants, there were about 500 of them on a vessel, and they were leaving Libya trying to cross the Mediterranean to get into southern Italy. I've made that journey on a cruise ship, but not from Libya. I left from Tunisia, which is right next door to Libya, which is a gasoline fill-up station for cruise ships traveling in the Mediterranean. That's why you stop in Tunisia. Okay, you don't stop there because there's anything to see or because it's not one of the poorest, buttholes of the world. You stop there because gas is cheap, and if the cruise line gets their fill up there. Anyway, so then you leave Tunisia and you don't realize that you're in northern Africa. Libya is in northern Africa. This is why I really want people to travel when they can. It's the only way that you'll learn, where in the world you are and why it matters. But anyway, so, this migrant ship was full of about 500 people that were fleeing Libya, trying to get to Italy. And their ship was sunk. It's not like, they were on this vanity trip. It's not like they were trying to, go sightsee 2 miles below the ocean surface. They didn't want to go below the ocean. They were not interested in below the ocean. Not even a care about a squid. Not even a whale watching. Not even a dolphin. Not even a turtle. So anyway, their ship was sunk. And it's not really a question of, can we think of two things at the same time? Yes. It's more of a question of the media coverage and also a question of the resources that were deployed. The other day I was trying to make a point about how when catastrophic things happen, right, when chaos and catastrophe ensue, taxpayers always get stuck with the bill, right? And this is one of those examples where, the world's taxpayers, obviously this was a global response, Canada, France, we know that the entire world tried to respond to these sightseers who decided to take this test submersible, this, iffy sort of, thing that had never been properly tested. Now we're finding out that there were other rich people who asked for their deposits back because they didn't like the odds. They didn't like the risk. They didn't like the way the company was dealing with the risk. And so they said, refund me. I'm not going on your little joy ride there to the bottom of the ocean. But that said, you had very sparse resources deployed to get these migrants out of the water. 500 of them apparently were on this boat. Now, it's hard to know. I doubt there was a manifest of any sort. But 81 of them have been rescued by Greece. So they say that about 100 perished, right? And we're pretty much done with it. We're done with it. And it happened, around the same time. So people who followed these human rights, debacles, people who followed the story of these migrants who were lost at sea, who were sunk at sea, who never made it to safety, who were literally fleeing with their children, trying to have a better opportunity to live, to educate their kids, to have some semblance of a life, and didn't make it across the Mediterranean. So some of the people who are trying to get you to pay a little bit of attention to that while the whole world was, watching these, idle, trust fund babies or these billionaire boys have their, little sightseeing fun. And it ended up in death, which is kind of the attraction, I think, to for the adrenaline junkies in the first place. But it was such a grotesque way to die. I think every detail that we found out, like, they bolt them from the outside. They bolt them in from the outside, like a coffin. You know what I mean? It was like one of those mind-blowingly horrifying visuals of how you could die. Yeah, but the guy who wrote the best article, that's what I wanted you to read, and I still do. The diver. The way he characterized our, let's say, fear or awe of the ocean, which if you've had anything to do with the ocean, okay, if you fish, like Gary in Fort Lauderdale, he's a fisherman, okay? That's what his living is. He also, is a captain of tenders. But anyway, if you've ever been a diver, if you were ever a surfer, if you ever were somebody that went to the beach and saw or got involved in riptides, it doesn't really matter what your level of expertise with the ocean is. As long as you've confronted it and its awesome, awesome power, you know what I'm saying, okay? This guy said, not only is it like the most awesome power known to man because space is wide open and the ocean is shut closed, meaning the pressure on the human body when you go into the ocean. But the allegory, I don't know how to say it, the comparison he made between space and the ocean was that space was the future where it's empty and you could write in the stars your future. He said the ocean is our past, and that's why it's so devastating to us, because we know we crawled out of the slime and we know that the ocean expelled us, and so trying to go back in is doubly scary, and space is not as scary. I don't know, just the way he put it sort of helped me understand why I was just tantalized, let's just say, by this story and not the sinking of the migrants.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, so while we were fascinated with this pleasure craft going completely loony and having some sort of catastrophic event happen to the point where, it took the entire world to recover a little portion of the cone of the little minibus that was trying to go 2.5 miles into the deep, deep ocean, a lot of crap was going on, a lot. So let's rewind, everybody. Let's rewind. This is... This is part 2 of Bret Baier's interview with, the morally challenged or the depraved Donald Trump, the psycho that was the president of the United States of America that we were asked to suffer through and, come out unscathed. There's no way. There's no way you could come out unscathed. But this is part 2. This is his view on what to do about the drug addiction in this country. The very compassionate view of what to do about addiction and drugs.
You've said you'd be in favor of the death penalty for drug dealers.
Yeah.
Still the case?
Yeah, it's the only way you're going to stop it. Look, we can be babies and we can have blue ribbon committees. I had my great first lady, beautiful wife, Melania, who says hello. She was in charge of a committee, a blue ribbon committee of socialites and various other people that want to be on a committee.
Oh, my God. Did he just denigrate his own wife that way? Did he just do that? First of all, it sounds like, Don Corleone says hello. Just sorry, it just does. And then, you strangle the guy at the bar. And then he says, and my beautiful wife, Melania, and a bunch of socialites, who wanted to be on a committee. They wanted to be on a blue ribbon. So I gave them blue ribbon, right? And they recommended the death penalty. This is where we're getting it from, okay? We're getting it from Melania and a bunch of socialites in Palm Beach. Okay.
And they worked very hard. And by the way, had an impact. We brought it down 18%. But 18% is not 100%. When I was in China, I met with President Xi, 1.4 billion people. I said, do you have a drug problem? No, 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 no. I do not have a drug problem. I said, why do you say that is? Because we immediately give a quick trial and a death penalty to drug dealers.
Oh, my God.
And if you go to Singapore, rich, everything else, they had a huge drug problem. Zero drug problem. If you want to get rid of it. Now, I don't know that this country is ready for it. I just don't know. Every time I say it, I sort of like, it's not easy to say the death penalty, but remember this. A drug dealer, male or female drug dealer, plenty of female drug dealers too, a drug dealer will kill approximately 500 people during the course of his or her life.
So you were a big proponent of the First Step Act, the criminal justice reform. You even ran an ad during the Super Bowl about it.
With gratitude, I want to thank President Donald John Trump.
Critics of that law point out that 13,500 people have been released. About 12% of them have committed serious crimes after that. Joel Francisco was serving a life sentence for selling crack cocaine. He was released in 2019, alleged stabbing a man to death, rearrested. Paul Moore, drug trafficker, fatally shot a rival, received a reduced sentence. So there are those, and your opponents are hitting on this.
Yeah, but I focused on nonviolent crime. As an example,
you let those
a woman
people
who
go.
you know very well was in jail. She had 24 more years to serve. She served for 22 years. She had 20.
Alice Johnson.
Alice.
She was in the Super Bowl.
High quality. Oh, yeah. I said, how many years? And she was on a telephone call, and they were involved in selling marijuana, mostly marijuana. And she got like 50 years in jail.
But she'd be killed under your plan.
Huh?
As a drug dealer.
No. Under that, it would depend on the severity.
Oh, my goodness. Brett Baer. What a ninja. Good Lord. What?
Would depend on the severity. Would depend, and this kind of crap that he spews, in moments of, great logical difficulty because he can't think, because he's an idiot. You understand? He's just a very, very good con man. He's an excellent, excellent liar. He's pathological. It comes naturally to him. It's his single gift is that he is mentally unable to feel guilt, shame, or conscience. That he is morally bankrupt is his gift. Okay? And that's what people like about him. They like that he can lie effortlessly. This is what they actually admire about this man. But when he's actually cornered, like he was back in 2016 on the abortion question, he goes, no, I think there should be some penalty. And he's like, I think it was Chris Matthews said, for the woman? Yes, for the woman. And here we are, everybody. Here we are. That's how rabid and crazy we let this country get. There really is no bottom, okay? There really is no bottom. So that was the part 2 of the Brett Baer interview. Part 1 was just astonishing because part 1, he admitted to committing several felonies on the TV. It was so unbelievable to, people who report the news, people who listen to the news, people who, imbibe and take in the news, people who analyze the news. They couldn't even believe it. They were asking every lawyer they could get their hands on, wait a minute. So is that admissible? Is that admissible at trial? And every single lawyer said, yes, he wasn't, giving these statements under duress. He wasn't under arrest. It's not like he needs to be Mirandized before he goes on Brett Baer. It's not like, you need to, remind him that he has the right to remain silent. Then he says, but I'm going to do a TV interview and you have to remind him again. No, you don't have to. And yes, it's all admissible in a court of law. And you know what's crazy? What's crazy is the amount of felonies this man is now charged with. Do you know in total it's 71 felonies? And he is now the arbiter of who lives and dies in this country by virtue of giving Fox News access to his wild brain, to his sick psychosis. I mean, honestly, and and by the way, a lot of lawyers have also written about and weighed in on whether or not the president of the United States can pardon himself, and the vast majority, like 99% to 1%, say, not a chance, Sally. There's not a chance the president could pardon himself. And we know this because of impeachment. What? Okay, let me explain to you real easy. So you know that a president can be impeached and then he goes on trial in the Senate and he can be removed from office. Those same exact charges are not going to take away his liberty. even an adjudication by the United States Senate where 2/3 of the members agree that he should be removed as president, which has never happened, but that the crimes were so severe and so demonstrably, obviously proven that you need to remove him, he still could stand trial and should stand trial for those same crimes in a court of law, not in the Senate, right? Not in the Senate, but in a court of law, because only in a court of law could you get due process enough to take away your freedom, your liberty, your ability to move freely about the country. And so those charges, even when you're convicted in the Senate, remain things you can be charged with and tried for in a civilian court. So we know that if a president could pardon himself and impeachment and removal is for a president, then all he would have to do is say, I pardon myself after the Senate said, no, you're convicted. And he would never have to stand trial in a criminal court, even if he did kill somebody on Fifth Avenue. It was caught on videotape while he was singing Pat Benatar songs and playing with the devil. Do you know what I'm saying? So we know that he can't pardon himself. So why is he going down this bad road?
To Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. All right, everybody, we are in day 2 of the 1,000 donor challenge, right? So yesterday we started a 1,000 donor challenge, meaning we were looking for 1,000 people to donate. Didn't matter if you were a new donor. It doesn't matter if you've previously donated. It doesn't matter if you've given $5 or $10. It doesn't. It applies to every single donation to come to the number 1,000 donations. And if we can do that over the next couple days, we will unlock another $10,000 from the frontline funders who love to challenge us with these games. Like, here, do this, do that, do that. And you guys are always so responsive. I guess you like doing it. I guess, everybody enjoys being part of Free Speech TV and being part of these challenges because, look, on the screen, you can see people are doing it now. So anyway, if you want to be part of the 1,000, call us at 877-378-8669 and do it now. You never know. You could see your name just flash up on the screen. Who knows? Or donate online at freespeech.org. We're an org because we're a not-for-profit. We're not a commercial enterprise. We are a org. So freespeech.org. And if you want to do it on your phone, super simple. Right there it says text FSTV to 44321. 44321, put in the letters FSTV, Free Speech TV, and we'll send you a secure link and you could do it that way. Thank you so much because I would like to get that extra 10,000 thrown in to the total before we're done, and we're done on Friday. We're done. So please do it. All right, so I left going into the break with the explanation of that Donald Trump cannot pardon himself. Most people agree that that would be ridiculous, right? Why go through the bother of an impeachment if a president could actually just pardon himself of any crime that he was accused of by, an impeachment vote? So that makes no sense. So why is he doing it? Well, the simplest explanation is often the best. It's because there's something wrong with him. It is because he is mentally incapable of having a conscience. It is because he is completely oriented by revenge. He is completely governed by the idea, just like, your crazy boyfriend. If I can't have her, nobody can. And he really, that explains to me the documents. It explains to me the quality of them. It explains to me why he chose what he chose to take, why he chose to lie about what he took, why, the fact that, $2 billion traded hands from the outgoing Trump administration and the Saudis, and that the Saudis' natural enemy in this world is Iran, and that the documents seem to be Donald Trump on tape saying, look, I have war plans against Iran. That's what I have here. You should look at this. You should look, although, you back up. You can't look at it. You know why? I could have declassified them when I was president, but I didn't. So you can't see them because they're still classified, and I can't do it now, which shows that he understood the system, that he knew, what the system was, and that he knew that he could classify at some point, declassify at some point. I don't think that represents that he understood that not only did he have to declassify, but he had to alert the organization within the government, let's say it was the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, let's say it was the CIA that created the presidential daily brief for that day or created the intelligence he was talking about, you have to notify the originator of the material. You can't just declassify crap without telling them, because the consequences of that, okay, I don't even have to explain it. I think everybody gets that, right? You intellectually comprehend that you would have to tell the originator of the material that you were making that public, that you were declassifying it for the safety and security of their sources, of their methods of collection, whether it be cyber collection or human collection or collection by text messaging or phones or, passing yourself off as a nice, decent Russian when really you are an American. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, but it does show that he has such disregard for our ability to keep ourselves safe and secure. And it's because he really does not care if we survive. He really wants revenge. That's all he wants. And yesterday you got to see a small snippet of what that might actually look like. Because yesterday in the House of Representatives, there was a testimony given by Durham, John Durham, who was hired by Bill Barr to go and decide and write a report, do a 4-year, multi-million-dollar investigation into whether Robert Mueller had the predicate, the correct predicate, the necessary elements to open up an investigation into the Trump campaign and Russian interference. The answer that Durham concluded after 4 freaking years was yes, he did. There was nothing wrong with what Mueller did. Mueller was right to open up an investigation. There was absolute, information. It started with one George Papadopoulos, as we all suspected, telling an Australian diplomat that Donald Trump's campaign had dirt on Hillary Clinton that Russia was holding. Okay? That's how this started. And it still is the beginning. It had nothing to do with the P tape, okay? Everybody loves to talk about the Steele dossier. You know why? Because that story was so outrageous that you remembered it. It's kind of like the submarine, okay? It's so outrageous that you actually get captivated by the audacity of these very rich billionaires taking a chance in a carbon-created, tube that would not withstand the pressures of the ocean at 2.5 miles deep, the atmospheres. Okay, and actually catastrophe. Okay, so it's the same damn thing. It's the same damn thing. So obviously yesterday there was testimony that, was gotten from Durham about whether or not there was a sufficient reason to open up this investigation. He said it 18 different ways to 18 different members of the House Judiciary Committee, but I'll just play you the shortest one I could find. This was Eric Swalwell just getting to it. Just saying, all right, you've testified all day today. Can I just get a nice little soundbite for Randy? Can I just get one?
And you agree that Russia interfered in the 2016 election?
I agree that there's substantial evidence to show that.
Yay!
Mr. Durham, my MAGA colleagues want you to be someone you're not, and they want you to say something you won't. They want you to join the law firm of Insurrection LLC, which incidentally and probably appropriately is chaired by a guy who never passed the bar exam, and you're wise not to do that. You see, my colleagues today, they are making themselves footnotes and foot soldiers in the history books that will chronicle Donald Trump's corruption.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Eric Swalwell, for the nice, tight, little, bright clip where Durham admits for the 150th time in that hearing yesterday that went on for hours, trying to get Durham to say something that he could not prove or that didn't happen. And that was, there was no predicate. Mueller was wrong to open up. And that all of the convictions that Mueller got and all of the indictments that Mueller got and all of the guilty pleas from Papadopoulos, by the way, from Flynn, all of these things that, they were gotten erroneously. They were gotten in bad faith. Durham said no. It was a legit, investigation, and it produced a lot of crime.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, this is what I'm calling, the revenge tour. Okay, obviously Matt Gaetz was not happy with John Durham yesterday, who said no, there was nothing wrong with the Mueller investigation. In fact, Mueller, did a lot of good. He found a lot of crime. He found, hacking and interference by the Russians in our elections, and he indicted at least 13, people in Russia. Too bad we don't have extradition and can't try them. But also Americans like Paul Manafort. Yeah, who was selling, polling data. Well, not even selling it. I mean, he was looking to settle debt that he already had and giving them inside polling on the presidential election ahead of the presidential election. Paul Manafort was convicted, as you know, but he was also pardoned, as you know, by the same guy who now says, burn it down to the ground. I just don't care. If I can't have it, nobody can. Matt Gaetz was totally part of that mindset yesterday when he roundly told John Durham, you let us down, dude. We paid millions into your little adventure there. We made sure Bill Barr hired you. And you produced no evidence at all that Mueller was a rigged deal, that Russia interference was a hoax, as we asked you to.
It's not what's in your report that's telling. It's the omission. It's the lack of work you did. And for the people like the chairman who put trust in you, I think you let them down. I think you let the country down. And you are one of the barriers to the true accountability that we need.
Do I get to respond to that or comment on that? Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've ever investigated a crime.
I don't know that you have. You didn't investigate these, Mr. Durham.
Whether
Look at that guy.
Did you charge him? Did you investigate him?
Gentlemen, time has expired. The witness can respond, and then we'll move on to our last.
I don't know, sir, whether or not you've ever had occasion to try to investigate crimes under the rules and regulations and under the Constitution that we're bound by. We can gather evidence in particularly lawful ways. Can't charge people because we might think
it's not
something.
Just that
we
you
can
didn't
charge
you
people.
didn't investigate. You didn't investigate the Mueller team wiping their phones, and you won't tell us who gave the orders because you're protecting those people.
Oh my God! So now, of course, after spending millions of dollars on this man, and touting him as being, he was going to expose the crime of the century. Everybody, not just ordinary garden variety, corruption or wrongdoing. In the Mueller investigation, not just, Klein Smith, making a mistake on the fourth application for a FISA warrant on Carter Page, a guy so insignificant that you forgot about him already. Okay, but that was the only guilty plea that this guy got, was to making a mistake on a FISA application for the fourth FISA warrant to continue to wiretap Carter Page. I don't know. That was all he came up with after the millions. And so the vengeful, the ugly, the nasty, now throw him overboard. And now today Gaetz is saying what he said yesterday, but nobody was watching. Now he's saying it in places where people will hear it, that Durham is part of a cover-up. The man that Donald Trump said, was like waiting for Guffman. I mean, he was just like waiting for Durham. Durham, where's Durham? Crime of the century. You'll see, crime of the century. Lock her up, crime of the century. No such thing will happen. No such thing could be found. No such thing was proven. There was no crime of the century. There was no crime. There was a mistake on an application, and that was the entirety of Durham's findings with regard to, let's say poor lawyering inside the Mueller investigation. That's it. That's all he got. But, Jamie Raskin gets it, okay? And so does every Democrat, especially Adam Schiff, because what was their next move? First, they said, okay, Durham, you're disappointed. You're now shunned from the family. You are now outed. You are now on your own. $32,000. How much did Paulie give him for a lifetime? $3,200.
That's it. $3,200 for a lifetime.
$3,200 for a lifetime. That's a Mueller. This is what Durham got. Durham got millions of dollars. And that's it. And now he's on his own. I got to turn my back on you, right? and not only turn my back on you, but now have to serve you up as being a traitor to your nation, a traitor to your country, because you wouldn't cheat for us, because you wouldn't do it. So everybody understands what's going on. But after that, they then moved to do 2 additional things. And by them, I mean the sickos in this, MAGA caucus, okay? The freedom crackers, the Tea Partiers, okay? These are their remnants, okay? This is the stuff that we still have to wipe off the bottom of our shoe. So what do? They shun Durham. They tell him he's on his own, okay? They're going to serve him up as being a traitor to his nation and the problem and part of a cover-up on top of it, proactively part of a cover-up. Then they move to censure, swear to God, can't make this crap up, Adam Schiff. Not only did they take him off the Intelligence Committee, one of the best and brightest people we have, working on our behalf is Adam Schiff, okay? Adam Schiff has been removed from the Intelligence Committee, but then on top of it yesterday, the sickos in the House, Kevin McCarthy had promised Boebert and Green and Biggs and the real slime balls, this is the party, by the way, of George Santos. Just so you know, they decided to censure Adam Schiff for saying that there was Russian interference in the 2016 election, which Durham agreed there was, under oath in his testimony. And they actually censured him. So there was a debate ahead of it, right? And Raskin tried to explain what was going on.
Today we meet not to lower the costs of prescription drugs, nor to expand President Biden's infrastructure plan, nor to protect the voting rights of the people, nor to protect the health care choices of women across America, because we know they're definitely not interested in that. No, we meet rather for another stop on the GOP's endless revenge tour against Democrats who dared to tell the truth about Donald Trump and his repeated sellouts and betrayals of the American people over the last 6 years. It's all about Donald Trump tightening his stranglehold over Republicans for the 2024 campaign and driving out anyone who dares to think for himself or herself. But don't take my word for it. Just read Friday's statement by the twice impeached inciter of insurrection, sexual abuser, defamer of women, and indicted pilferer of national security secrets, war plans, and top secret classified documents himself. On Friday, Trump posted this order to his followers and this unveiled threat to anyone who would dare to defy his control over the GOP. Quote, any Republican voting against Adam Schiff's censure or worse should immediately be primaried, he wrote.
So you see, this is his whole thing. This is how he burns it down to the ground. He actually tells the craziest of the crazy, the least equipped to govern. He tells the people that think they're getting their orders from God. I swear to God, Lauren Boebert yesterday went on this crazy show that is now it's cult-like in its following. It is a show that pretends to be somewhat evangelical, but it's an insult to evangelicals. It's an insult to people of faith. It's an insult to right and wrong. It's an insult to morality and decency. This is, to defend a guy who betrayed his country 8 ways to Sunday, actually caused a violent insurrection, stole classified documents, lied about them, and is still accusing people of planting them as he instructed his lawyer to say a lie, to tell a lie on his behalf under oath. I mean, this is a man who was found guilty for grabbing a woman in a dressing room, literally found guilty of that. This is a guy who paid hush money to a porn star, and they all went along with it. And so now they're pulling the last possible strings on the crazy. So Boebert is on one of these lunatic, fringy, culty shows with this new sort of, I don't even want to call it a faction because that makes it sound like real. It's this new strain, this new like virus that's infecting, the religious community in this country. And yes, there is a religious community in this country that actually comports themselves as if, they had some morals. She's not one of them. She said God is telling her, God has directed her to not only do this, to censure Adam Schiff, but to impeach Joe Biden for no apparent reason. I mean, this is mad. But Donald Trump is putting all his weight, all his support behind these real maddening psychos. Not that Donald Trump is a man of faith, of any faith. The only thing he believes in is himself. The only thing he believes in is greed. The only thing he believes in is you have to win. You have to win at any cost. And it doesn't matter who you have to hurt. It doesn't matter what family, throw them overboard too. It doesn't matter. Self-preservation, that's his rule. That's his rule of thumb. That's his guiding light, right? But he's using people to get his revenge. He's using people and elevating the craziest and least intelligent.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
On Capitol Hill, House members voted along party lines to censure Congressman Adam Schiff for his leading role in investigating former President Trump several years ago.
It's a badge of honor. As Roosevelt said in his time, sometimes you can judge a person by the enemies they make.
Yep. It's a rare move. Schiff is only the 25th House member to ever be censured, only the third in the last 20 years. His Democratic colleagues repeatedly interrupting House Speaker Kevin McCarthy as he read the rules surrounding the censure, which amounts to a public reprimand.
House will be in order.
Schiff served on the House committee investigating the deadly January 6th attack on the Capitol. And he was the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee investigating whether the 2016 Trump campaign had any ties to Russia. That investigation found Russia did intervene in the election, but found no evidence of a criminal conspiracy.
I think the investigation of his misconduct was very important. It ultimately led to his impeachment, which I was proud to lead.
Meanwhile, in a separate matter, Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert has introduced articles of impeachment against President Biden over his handling of the southern border. ABC News has learned Speaker McCarthy is urging Republicans to vote against the resolution, arguing now is not the right time. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi accusing Republicans of turning the House into a puppet show.
This chamber, where slavery was abolished, where Medicare and Social Security and everything were instituted, they've turned it into a puppet show. A puppet show. And you know what? The puppeteer, Donald Trump, is shining a light on the strings. You look miserable.
The censure of Adam Schiff also directs the Ethics Committee to investigate his actions during the investigations he took part in.
This is crazy. This is mass madness. This is pure revenge. This is all this is. This is, personalities. This has nothing to do with the rule of law or enforcing the law or protecting the security of the United States of America or keeping foreign governments from interfering in our elections, which obviously did happen in 2016 and probably happens, in every election cycle. The problem is that the man who was running for the Republican nomination, the man who actually became the Republican nominee, was running and welcoming their help when he stood on that stage and he said, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find. That was it. That was game over. That was Donald Trump welcoming interference in the 2016 election. That's number one. Number two, when Mueller started to investigate, way after there was a predicate for an investigation to begin, and it had nothing to do with the Steele dossier. Zero, zip, zilch, goose egg, squat, donut, nothing, nada. Nothing to do with that. It was because George Papadopoulos was bragging to an Australian diplomat that Russia had dirt on Hillary Clinton and was going to give it to the Trump campaign to help him win. That's when the actual report came into the United States. That's how it got to the United States. It wasn't Christopher Steele with Donald Trump in the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow, maybe, having a pee party on the bed, which, knowing him at this point, like, who would even be surprised at that? Nobody. Okay, but that's not why there was an investigation begun. There was an investigation begun because before it became obvious that the Russians were interfering, before it became obvious that Trump was welcoming that interference, before it became obvious that Roger Stone was the go-between for the Republican for the Democratic National Committee headquarters documents, which were hacked by the Russians, being disseminated through WikiLeaks at times and places of Donald Trump's choosing. Roger Stone was, the man who was coordinating that portion of it. Before we knew all that, the government of the United States of America understood that dirt had been hacked out of the DNC and that Russia was the hacker and that those documents were given to Julian Assange at WikiLeaks. And then we started to find out how the coordination between WikiLeaks, between the Russians who hacked it, and Trump's campaign occurred. So, I mean, this is known stuff. And instead of people being like, hey, listen, I like the guy. It was fun while it lasted. He was really entertaining. I couldn't get enough of him. Even if I hated everything he was saying, I had to watch him say it. It was compelling, okay? Just give me that. It was compelling. But, I love my country. And, I served my country, or, my kids served my country, or, I would serve my country. Or, I have a moral compass. Or, I know that's wrong. Instead of all that, people just said, yeah, burn it down, I hate this place. Swear to God. And now they're trying to tell people this is what God wants. Yeah, God wants America destroyed. That is a really interesting deity you've selected. A deity that actually roots for the destruction of an entire nation. That's your guy. That's who you picked. That's the one that tells you, oh, we have to, out children, and we have to deprive them of medical intervention, and we have to keep women dying in childbirth. We have to do all these, 1940s things. We have to do. No, let's go even further back. Let's go to 1840s. Let's go back there. That's what we want. I mean, the ugliness that ensues from these people when we have this little holiday called Juneteenth. Okay? It's just an Independence Day celebration. And this country, they go, 1776. Well, if you weren't free in 1776, that ain't your day. That's not your Independence Day. That's somebody else's Independence Day, but it certainly isn't, people who weren't free's Independence Day, because you know what? They weren't independent. Yeah, so, and the racism that just spews out of these people on an occasion like that, an occasion where macaroni and cheese is served. They could be angry and hostile. I mean, come on. How low do you want to go? Corn on the cob is evil. Macaroni and cheese, it's the elixir of life. My God. So I don't, but listen, this guy that they worship, this guy that they're following, this guy that they believe is their leader, has absolutely no moral compass. He has no moral boundaries. He doesn't appear capable of understanding even, categories of morality. He doesn't seem to be able to process that the law does apply to him as well as other people he wants to condemn to death. Right? He can't process that. Okay? This man is charged now. This is stunning. With 71 criminal counts. 71 under 7 different federal laws. Okay? I mean, you've got 34 counts on the business thing, right? And then you've got 30 some odd counts on the national security items. 7 different laws were broken, and this guy is telling his followers that God is directing them, that God wants him to be the president. And I swear to God, the most mentally inoperative, I don't know what to say, because I don't know that there's something like sick, or that she has an illness, that Lauren Boebert has an illness. No, I don't know that this isn't just sheer opportunism. I have no, look-see into her deepest, darkest, motives, why she does what she does. I could just tell you that her and Marjorie Taylor Greene are fighting it out, and I'm all for that. I mean, you want a cage match, that would be my pick, those two. And now they're fighting amongst each other. You know why? They're fighting over their man. They have turned the House of Representatives into Jerry Springer, a Jerry Springer episode. I swear to God, where you have two white trash girls fighting over a really bad guy. That's what's going on here. And what are they fighting about? Large Marge says she was the first to introduce articles of impeachment. She's the first to say she was going to impeach Joe Biden. Day one, he hadn't even done anything yet. She was going to impeach him. Okay? Last night, Lauren Boebert stood up on the floor and she took a point. She used a procedural maneuver, a point of personal inquiry, personal privilege, and she introduced or tried to introduce articles of impeachment. And her and Marge got into it like a Springer episode.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, this is literally Nazi TV that you're about to see. This is a thing. This is a platform called Flashpoint, and it is a get-together sort of a destination for white Christian nationalists. This is Nazi stuff. This is real fascism. And, Donald Trump was interviewed on this channel. And here's little Lauren Boebert saying why she needs to beat up Marjorie Taylor Greene, basically, over who gets to the podium first to impeach Joe Biden, right?
All glory to God. This is grace. This is God's empowerment and his ability and staying grounded, rooted in the word of God. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I am directed and led by him. You know, there was pressure for me not to introduce the articles of impeachment tonight. Well, not introduce them, but to bring them up and call them for a vote. And I said, I have a peace, a still in my spirit, and I'm going to be led by peace, not by the pressure from the outside. And we've seen that on full display with the speaker's race, where Matt Gaetz and I were surrounded, pressure from the outside, but strong on the inside, knowing that we are purposed and that we are doing what is right, what is righteous. And I think, just as you said, history will prove that. I'm not being like the press secretary and calling myself an historic figure, but history will prove that we were on the right side of the argument. And it is all about being led by the Spirit of God in everything that you do. I do give him all glory for where I am, for the people that he has positioned me with and in front of, to speak life into situations and to hold the corrupt accountable. I'm grateful to be here and to help get our country back on track, because we are that shining city on a hill. We are a beacon of light for the rest of the world, and it is the goodness of God that leads men to repentance.
All of that invocation of the Lord and, scripture, so that she can beat Marjorie Taylor Greene in introducing articles of impeachment before Marjorie Taylor Greene has a chance to introduce articles of impeachment.
She's being humble. She's not historic. I think she's historic. She's an historically incompetent House member.
No, she's hysterical, not historical. she's a mess, is what it is. She literally married a man who, she was there at the bowling alley when that guy literally whipped it out in front of minors and showed it to them, and she married him after that. Her son. Why doesn't she just go home and tend to her own little garden of sin? Why doesn't she just go home and give her love, time, and attention and God's wisdom to her teenage boy who, is, impregnating, underage minors, and then, she's taking a victory lap. I don't even, and then all of a sudden, he has to go to court because he stole something from, this is crazy. She's Sarah Palin 2.0 is what it is. This is just madness. But these channels are new. When Sarah was actually tapped by John McCain to be his VP, what does the VP do all day anyway? There was no platform for white Christian nationalists the way that there is now, and the dissemination of this vomit, this puke, this unbelievable, blasphemy is, it's so easy now to just, talk to tens of thousands of people about your belief that God wants Joe Biden impeached for no apparent reason. And, to actually stand on the House floor and fight it out with Marjorie Taylor Greene in a Jerry Springer manner over a guy, over a guy. That's kind of what this is, all about. So it's beyond parody. It's literally beyond Springer, because it's real. It's actually happening. This is a crazy, crazy Congress. Will we live? Yeah, we'll live. But when you stand by and allow decent, smart, capable people who stood on that wall, who actually said, okay, Donald Trump is taking help and interference in our election from Russians who do not wish us well. Okay? Donald Trump is in a coordinated effort to overthrow the results of a free and fair election, and he's willing to use violence at the end. Donald Trump paid hush money to a porn star. Donald Trump literally raped a woman in Bergdorf Goodman, and a jury of his peers found that was true. Okay? Donald Trump literally stole national secrets of the United States, things that help us stay safe and keep us, out of harm's way, right? This was a test for the evangelicals. This was a test for the moral. This was a test for, ordinary Americans who claim that they live by family values, that they like the idea of constitutional conservatism. Right? This was the big test, and you failed. You failed miserably. You literally hitched your get along to a man who had women on his mud flaps and would rape people and say he was entitled to do that because when you're a star, you can do anything. You can do anything. And I tell you, it's not coming from me, okay? There was an article that, this whole time that we were looking at this catastrophic, thing with the, amazingly, compelling story about the billionaires in the sub, right? And the what was it? Subversion? No, this is subversion. That's a submersible? Yes. Yes, it's a submersible. We have Ibbles now for submarines. They're not just submarines. And you're not just a submariner anymore. You're now an Ibble.
I'm going to go ahead and avoid Ibbles.
Yes.
Going forward.
You're an Ibble. Anyway, so it's not just me. There was a very, it wasn't all that long for The Atlantic. The Atlantic Monthly, which is, a regular magazine, but, most people are now reading all this crap online. I don't even know besides for me, who gets a newspaper. I mean, I love it. I actually like, maybe you guys can relate. I like holding it in my hand. Just saying. If that gets you to read a newspaper, I'm good with it. But most people read it online. But The Atlantic, sometimes they have, 34, 48, 92,852 pages. This was written by a guy who regularly writes for The Atlantic. He is a Christian conservative. I want to say he was W's speechwriter. Okay, this guy who could justify anything, that he wants to with an evangelical passage or three. He cannot defend the immorality and the complete abject failure of the evangelical community with regard to Donald Trump. And he said, the man is disordered, and anybody who wants to know it can know it.
It is a fascinating and deeply disturbing psychological phenomenon that we're seeing unfold. It's happened throughout history, and it's happened time now and then in this country, but never on this scale and never with a presidential candidate or former president like Donald Trump. So will there be some erosion? Potentially, but not much. And as we've seen, whether it's a coup attempt, whether it's a violent insurrection, whether it's a civil case in which he sexually harassed a woman, he can pretty much get away with anything with these people. And that, by the way, I think there are two stories here in terms of historically. One is that we had what's essentially a sociopath as president, a man with a disordered personality. That's always been true of Donald Trump. But the other thing is the complicity of an entire political party, the Republican Party, that went along with him.
Yes, and the evangelical community that still goes along with him.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody, we're almost there. We're almost there to the end of the summer. I keep wanting to say spring, but the summer Free Speech TV blood drive. I don't know why I have spring on my mind. I just do. But it is summer. It is, ridiculously sweaty hot. Freaking Texas. Like, what's the temperature there? 150? Holy crap, man. But we are dead in the middle of summer, and so this is our summer pledge drive. Obviously, it's slumpy because it's summer, but we need just a few more. We're almost there. 1,000 donors. 1,000 donors. If it, not new. Don't have to be new to this game. Don't have to be new to the contribution thing. Don't have to have never given. Everybody is counts towards the 1,000 number. So 877-378-8669. If you'd like to make a donation and be counted, be part of this, be included in the challenge of 1,000 donations for the Summer Pledge Drive, please do it, or visit us online at freespeech.org. Or you can text to 44321 the letters FSTV, and we would be happy to send you a nice secure link upon which you can make your donation that will count towards the 1,000 donations. All right, Carmen in Philly.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
That's good. Randy, I have a question that really boggles my mind.
Mm-hmm.
All these indictments and all the other stuff that Donald Trump, as I like to call him, has put this country through. Why is he still being allowed to run for president again? I don't understand it.
Well, because we have there's no barrier to entry to be president except for age, and you have to be a U.S. citizen. That's it. That's
really?
Yeah, it's in the Constitution. There's nothing else that is a barrier to entry to be the president. You could run, Carmen, this is crazy, but you could run from freaking jail. You could run from federal prison. You could run from a supermax, okay? I swear. I know. It's totally not ideal, but it is the way it is.
Let me tell you something, Randy. If Barack Obama had done half of the things that Trump had done.
Carmen, he wore a tan suit and they wanted to impeach him. I mean,
thank you. They would have found a way. Thank you. You got that right, girlfriend. They would have found a way to.
His crime against humanity was a tan suit.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, it boggles my mind.
Oh my God.
What? Please, let's not go through. I don't want to go through another 4 years of this knucklehead.
We won't make it through another 4 years. We won't, because this time they learned what they did wrong the last time, and they will purge, just like Saddam, they will purge the government of anybody that isn't loyal to that man, not to the Constitution, not to the national security.
I understand to him.
That's it. And
it's absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe these people.
Yeah, and people like me or anybody that ever spoke out, against fascism or against him, or told you, the crimes that were documentable or the indictments and read them to you or whatever, we will all end up in jail. We will either end up in jail or we will be banished from our ability to live free, some way, somehow. So
they'll probably come in my neighborhood and kill me.
Yeah, don't put it past him. I mean, here he is talking about the death penalty. Okay, the death penalty.
Yeah, for minor drug dealers. I mean, I'm not saying drug dealers are good guys or anything like that, but selling pot? Come on now.
Honestly, what is wrong with him? I mean, it is an amazing thing that he says out loud. And, the stuff that he proclaims has a way of getting approved at the highest levels of our government, including the Supreme Court now. So we won't make it through another 4 years. We just won't. And everybody always asks me, when is it time to go? When would it be time to go? Well, if that man is sworn in on January 20th, of 2025, yes, it's time to go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for the
Thank
opening,
you.
Randy. I needed to find out for sure. I don't understand it. Why is this guy still allowed to run? And they know he's a crook.
Right. But it's like, Carmen, the way that I think about it is real simple. So, you ever watch like a really good mob movie? I don't care which one is yours.
Oh, heck yeah, I love mob movies.
Okay, and don't you end up rooting for Henry Hill? And don't you end up rooting for Michael Corleone? And don't you, and as obnoxious as Sonny is, and he's got to, get killed at the throughway, don't you just feel bad when he gets killed? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the misplaced, admiration that they have for this guy. It's that same genre of perverted love, but this is for real life.
Right, I was about to say, this is real life. I mean, trust me, I lived in Philly. I remember the South Philly Mafia gang, okay? Those guys were something. That's all. I'm put it like that. Put it in a nice way.
Yeah.
Because I can't say bad words.
Yeah, I get it. But you see, when the president of the United States is a thug and he acts like a thug, and then he calls nice people thugs because the people are holding him accountable for being a thug, you know we can't survive that. You know that's like nearly impossible to have.
And it blows my mind how his people want to go after Joe Biden for what his grown behind son did.
Right. I mean,
his son is a grown man. Whatever he did, that's on him, not his father.
But what did he do? What he did was, he actually lied on a gun application, which, I promise you, every single Republican with a drug problem who has a gun did.
That's right. They're jumping all over this.
That all of a sudden is the crime of the century that everybody was looking for.
They're jumping all over this faster than the brown on my behind.
I mean, really, it's like, you don't even want to say these things out loud because they'll have a date with irony, kind of like, the people that were going to see the Titanic named their vessel Titan. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to do that. You're going to have a date with irony, do you know? And they did. So honestly, everybody's got to take a breath and realize Hunter Biden was never and is not your problem. He is not what's wrong with the country. He's not what's wrong with government. What's wrong with government is an uneducated electorate that thinks that Hunter Biden is responsible for what's wrong with government. I mean, it's just, wow, it's an endless little circle of bad vibes that goes on in that Republican Party, but they are not beneath doing anything. See, that's what this guy, Peter Wenner, I don't know if you know who Peter Wenner is, but I read, strange things. I read The Atlantic. I read, Mother Jones and The Nation and all those things. But I also read the Wall Street Journal, okay? I also read National Review. I also read, right-wing swill, and it's easy for me to, see what is right and what is wrong. But Peter Wenner finally said something. This is a guy who is a Christian evangelical conservative thought leader, okay? Like I said, he was in the Bush administration. I believe he was his speechwriter. And he wrote this piece in The Atlantic talking about how basically he was saying that, when a person is colorblind, so color has no meaning to them. They don't know what's blue and what's green. They don't know what's purple or what's red. They can't. My father was like that. He was colorblind, okay? He's saying morality is to Donald Trump like, color is for colorblind people. The man just has no compass. He just can't be decent. And that was a test for the evangelicals in this country. And they failed miserably. And guess what? Now the whole evangelical faith is ruined.
Randy, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I think what's been revealed, among other things, Joe, is that faith turned out to be subordinate, secondary to certain core identities, whether they were partisan and political or cultural or socioeconomic or psychological. And what happened is a lot of people had a certain preconceptions. They started at a point and they used the scriptures to justify where they were. Shakespeare said, "Devil can quote scripture for his own purposes," and in fact did in the Second Temptation. And I think we're seeing that happen. And look, you have in Donald Trump the person who probably most embodies the antithesis of the Sermon on the Mount, the person of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus. And this guy is a rock star and has been for year after year. Now, you could have made an argument in 2016 that they didn't know what he was dealing with, but not as the years unfolded. And by the time we got to 2020, it was so obvious what he was, and yet they stayed. And it's a tremendous indictment of them, and it raises really deep issues. I know Tim was a close friend of mine. We talked a lot about this, and it really raises a lot of questions about the evangelical movement and what's happened, what went wrong, and what can be done to get it right.
So these are the evangelicals who are thought leaders in that community, okay? This man here, Peter Wenner, is a evangelical thought leader. He's a writer. He was a speechwriter for W. He comes from that group of a silent majority evangelical faith community, and he is appalled at how badly the title or the position of the evangelicals in this country has been denigrated, because evangelicals were given a test. The test was whether or not they would, recoil in horror when they understood that the president was on tape saying, you can grab him by the P word. You could do whatever you want when you're a star. You could do whatever you want. I just start kissing them. I can't help myself. When they heard that Donald Trump was, the owner of Miss Teen USA and was sitting there talking to Howard Stern and telling Howard Stern that he likes to go backstage and inspect them, the minors, when they're naked. And because he was the owner, he could do that. And then, dragged us through the extraordinary mud of a Muslim ban, okay? A Muslim ban. And then started talking about how women need to be punished. Okay, this is a guy who probably, I can't even tell you how many abortions he had to have paid for in his sexually active, perverted life. And yet he was saying women needed to be punished. Now he wants the death penalty for people who sold marijuana. In the same breath that he's saying that, he could, pardon through the First Step Act somebody he thought was a high quality person and didn't deserve to be in jail, even though she also sold marijuana. It just depends on the severity. And he's going to be the arbiter of who gets the death penalty and who does. I mean, this is just so sick and so insane. And it was a test. It was a real basic, obvious test for evangelicals. And Peter Winter actually wrote that they failed, that he said Trump's behavior obviously speaks to his own character, but Trump's behavior has also proved to be a test of the character of others, Republican politicians, Republican voters, the GOP establishment, and the evangelical movement. It's proved to be a test of character for those who claim to be constitutional conservatives and family values advocates, for ethicists and public intellectuals, for right-wing commentators and party strategists. With very few exceptions and to varying degrees, they have failed it. They have turned against, or at the very least at a crucial hour, they have failed to defend ideals and institutions they once claimed to cherish. Donald Trump could not have so deeply wounded our republic without his enablers. This was a team effort. Took teamwork, everybody. He said, and now here we are, 8 summers after Trump. Oh, my God, when you put it that way, because we launched this thing, July 15th? 8 summers ago. Oh, my God, 8 summers. He said, here we are, 8 summers after Trump announced his first bid for the presidency, and we find him facing 71 felony counts, while still 30 points above his nearest GOP rival. Having transformed the Republican Party in his own image in ways that exceeded even what Ronald Reagan did, his imprint on the party in 1,000 different ways. Tens of millions of Americans see Trump as their angel of vengeance, and they can't wait for the second act to get started. The moral wreckage that's been done to this country, the wreckage of the 4-year presidency, the post-presidency, the threatening of people if you don't, censure Adam Schiff, who was absolutely correct in impeaching Donald Trump, correct in the intelligence that he was able to gather. That clearly showed that Russia was interfering in our elections, that they had hacked into the DNC, that they took the materials, they gave the materials to WikiLeaks, and then Roger Stone and his ilk were responsible for coordinating the release of those documents to benefit Donald Trump. That actually happened. That is true. And if you don't agree to censure the man who actually worked really hard to show you that, right? To explain that to America. If you don't censure him, Donald Trump, from afar, from the shadows, will primary you. Oh, my God. The moral depravity, usually they used to say, I'm depraved on account of I was deprived. Donald Trump was not deprived of anything except maybe his mother's love. I don't know. I don't know what set him off on this depravity, which touches every single area of his life. Private life, public life, business life, you name it, he's corrupt. He has absolutely no morals. And he doesn't even bother to try to hide that from public view. He doesn't even try to disguise it. He doesn't even make it hard to see. It's impossible to miss. He's erratic. He's unprincipled. He's unstable. He's obsessive. He's a serial liar. He's a misogynist. He makes racist appeals. He actually, the Muslim ban, I mean, my African American, it's unbelievable. He is disordered. And nobody even knows what to name it because it's so ubiquitous in every single part of his life. His entire goal is to dehumanize and hurt people that disagree with him. His entire purpose in life is to threaten judges, judges' families, judges' wives. It started with Judge Curiel. That's why I'm saying, at the beginning you could, sort of say, I don't know if he means that he wants to, hurt this Judge Curiel because Judge Curiel was in charge of the Trump fraud case for Trump University and Judge Curiel's father. I mean, they were from Indiana, right? Judge Curiel was born in Indiana, but his father was from Mexico, and therefore Judge Curiel could not sit and run a court proceeding that was going to determine whether or not Donald Trump defrauded students who brought the lawsuit against Donald Trump out of their $36,000 that they paid in tuition to Trump University, which turned out to be a fraudulent place. But Judge Curiel had to be threatened, and now he's doing it to the judges now. He's actually saying that this judge over here, well, his wife is a piece of crap too. I mean, literally making personal threats to judges and prosecutors. And then when somebody is found guilty of a crime on his, that was committed at his, for his benefit, he pardons them. He subverts the entire legal system. Steve Bannon was found guilty of defrauding his own viewers. Donald Trump pardoned him. Roger Stone was found guilty of lying to Congress, obstructing the investigation, the Mueller investigation. He was coordinating the release of the WikiLeaks documents that were hacked and stolen, right? And Donald Trump pardoned him after he was, going to jail. Same thing, Manafort. Manafort was guilty of doing it too. Manafort was selling polling data to the Russians, literally internal polling data, in exchange for getting, his debt that he owed Oleg Deripaska forgiven. When he got convicted, Donald Trump pardoned him. Michael Flynn pled guilty twice. Donald Trump pardoned him. I mean, he just subverts the legal system for those who are loyal to him, not to the Constitution, not to the rule of law, not to our safety and security, not to the national security. He was found liable in his civil case of sexual abuse, but, that's separate and apart from the national security of the United States. I don't understand it. I need everybody to sit there and think about it. Think about what it is that you can do to talk to people who still want retribution or revenge on this country. On this country, because moderates and women said, you know what? We could do better than that disgusting thing. Okay? We could do better than somebody that, everything is about him. I'm sick of everything being about him. We have real problems. We got a corrupt Supreme Court. He packed it with Leonard Leo's paid for hacks. I mean, honestly, get serious now.